And hello YouTube, GSmaniamsmart here, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at the second Guild Wars 2 expansion, Path of Fire. We'll talk about the announcement, we'll talk about the details, we'll talk about the pricing, the elite specializations, the masteries, the maps, all kinds of cool stuff that got released today in case you missed it, so stick around. That's coming up next. What's up guys, GSmaniamsmart here, today with another brand new video for Gaming with GS, and thanks for stopping by for another one of my videos. Glad to have you, and it's an exciting day today. If you happen to be new to the channel, I encourage you to subscribe to our channel. We have plenty of other videos coming up about Path of Fire. I'm going to be creating a lot more of these. We have plenty of other Guild Wars 2 content videos already on the channel, many guides, gold guides. We do story recaps, reviews, patch summaries, and we do speculation about future expansions just like this one. And today we're going to go over all the details that got released on Path of Fire. So if you're not subscribed to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and click that post notification bell so you can stay up to date with all the most recent videos. So hopefully you guys are excited as I am about this expansion. If you happen to have missed a lot of the information that got released earlier today, to be honest with you, I was only able to see the trailer when it got released. I did a little reaction video on that trailer. If you want to see my reaction video on the Path of Fire trailer, I'll leave a link in the description as well as a card on screen right now so you can check that out and then come back here and continue watching this one if you want. If not, that's fine. I know some of you wanted to see a reaction video from me though, so I did it for you guys since I know some of you wanted to see it. Also, a quick little note, I definitely called the name of this expansion. The moment we got the acronym released, POF, I immediately thought Path of Fire has to be Path of Fire or Path of Flames. And I'm glad they called it that because it makes perfect sense. Now, like I said, in this video, we're going to go over all the information that got released about the expansion. In case you missed the 2.5-hour post-show with the Wooden Potatoes, in case you missed the pre-show, or in case you missed the main announcements section of the show where they talked about some of the features and whatnot, then this video is pretty much going to summarize everything so you don't need to watch 3-4 hours of footage. I know some of us don't have that much time. I actually listened to a bit of it, watched a bit of it, so I have a pretty good understanding of it. So hopefully that'll be helpful to you, and hopefully it gets you up to date with everything that got released from today's announcement. So first of all, expansion name is Path of Fire. Obviously, release date will be September 22nd, 2017. So that means it's going to be less than 2 months away from today. Less than 2 months away. In fact, exactly, what, 50, 52, 53 days? That's not a lot of time. I'm really surprised at how much information they get out today. I mean, I wasn't expecting so many YouTube videos. If you go on the Guild Wars 2 YouTube channel, you'll see a ton of videos talking about the elite specializations. They're like little trailers, they're about 1 to 2 minute videos. They have a 20-some minute video talking about the features with the developers. They have the announcement trailer. They have a bunch of videos there, and I was surprised at how they have the new website up already, about all the videos they have up. I mean, they've been planning a lot for this, and the amount of information that got released today is really extraordinary. And the reason why is because, well, the release date is coming up so soon. I guess this is sort of Mike O'Brien's way of doing things. When it's ready to ship and we have everything done, we'll release everything. And you know what? It gets exciting when everything gets released so quickly and you have a ton of information to, basically hype about. So, September 22nd, there will also be a first preview weekend, which I'm guessing is going to be a beta, sort of, where you can maybe try the game out. The first weekend for this preview will be August 11th through the August 13th, so mark that on your calendar because I'm pretty sure this is a beta. I'm not entirely sure, but it might very well be. So August 11th to the August 13th. There is also a pre-order page already up where you can pre-order the game, and if you pre-order the game, you will get a Sunspear weapon skin of your choice, a miniature Balthazar, and the title of Elonian Envoy. So some pretty cool things if you want to pre-order. However, you don't need to pre-order. I know some people really don't like pre-ordering because they don't know how the game actually is yet. They want to wait for the reviews. So you definitely don't have to pre-order. If you want these bonus items though, then you're gonna have to pre-order, but it's completely up to you. The standard price is gonna be $30, which is actually really good news because a lot of people complained about Heart of Thorns being $50. And a lot of the older Guild Wars 2 expansions were $30, $40, you know? So I'm really glad that they've lowered the price on this. The deluxe version is going to be $55, and the ultimate version is going to be $80. Deluxe version comes with a Path of Fire max level boost, additional character slot, identity repair kit, which is basically a name change and total makeover kit, the Sun Spear outfit, and the Lily of the Elon permanent pass. I'm guessing this is going to be like one of those little special areas where you can go into and all the services are there available to you. So if you want to, you know, spend an additional $25, you do have the option to get all of that content. And if you want to spend an additional $40, then you'll get everything, including 4,000 gems. Now, there's a bit of an interesting thing going on with the pricing model with this new expansion. It seems like the base game will be $30. So if you have Heart of Thorns already, and you have the core game, obviously, you'll be paying $30 to get the Path of Fire content. If you don't have Guild Wars 2, the main game, and if you don't have any expansion, or you don't have anything basically, you can buy Guild Wars 2, the main base game, and Path of Fire for $30 also. So if you have Heart of Thorns ready, if you have the base game, it's $30. If you don't have anything, it's also $30. However, if you don't have Heart of Thorns, or if you don't have anything, basically if you want to have Heart of Thorns also, it'll be $50. So Heart of Thorns is not included in the base price of Path of Fire. Only the base game and only the new expansion. So it seems like the pricing model is going to be new expansion and the base game. Here's the price. That's what I'm guessing is going to be the deal from now on, moving forward with all future expansions, that you'll be paying for the expansion that's new, and you'll be paying for the base game in one price. If you want to add previous expansions, it's going to be a little more expensive, which makes sense. I know a lot of people have responded positively to this, so a bit of criticism for some people, but for the most part, I think this is a pretty fair business model. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I know other games have it set up differently. I know EverQuest 2, if you buy the recent expansion, you get all of them. And I think World of Warcraft, I think, still does it that way too. I'm not entirely sure. I think they might have done it at one point. It's been a long time since I played World of Warcraft. I know EverQuest 2 did it that way. So I think it's fair, especially since the game is going to be free. It's a one-time purchase. You don't have a monthly payment subscription, so I think it's a very fair deal. Now, a bit more general information that go a bit more into details about the Elite Specializations, the maps that we're getting, the storyline. I'm not going to go over any spoilers. However, the next expansion will be starting right off of where we left from Living World Season 3, so we'll still be tracking Balthazar as he's hunting for the Elder Dragon. We'll be going into the Crystal Desert for the first time since basically Guild Wars 1, and that's like over 250 years ago, since the timeline of Guild Wars 1. This is basically the same place where Glint lived, so it's going to be really interesting to see how this zone has changed from some of the trailer footage. You can obviously see some of it already, but it's going to be a completely different experience when you actually play the game yourself. There's going to be 5 new open world zones released. So compared to Heart of Thorns, where we got 4 maps, but in reality really only 3 maps that were explorable, these are going to be 5 fully fledged explorable zones. It's not going to be something like Dragon's Stand, where the map is locked for most of the time and you can't really explore it. It's going to be 5 huge zones. And these zones are supposed to be bigger than the Heart of Thorns zones. And if you think about the Heart of Thorns zones, those were huge. I mean, Auric Basin, Verdant Brink, and Tangled Depths were massive zones. These zones are supposed to be even bigger than those, which is super exciting, because one of the things that the developers said in their videos is that they really want to bring back exploration to Guild Wars 2, and that's why they're making these maps so big, so huge. They're filling these maps with a lot of content, and because these maps are so big, this is why they've introduced the new mount system. Currently there is a Raptor, a Springer, a Skimmer, and a Jackal. So each mount has its own unique movement abilities as well. Some of them can jump, some of them can fly, some of them can hover over things, and you'll be able to use them to explore every new zone. And I did hear, I'm not sure if this is true, but I did hear, and you know, by now you should know, usually when we hear things, they become true. So I did hear that these mounts will be available to be used across all Guild Wars 2 zones. So even in the core Tyria zones, they're also going to be introducing 9 new elite specializations, which I'll go over in just a bit. I won't go too in detail into them because that'll take forever and make this video super long. And well, then you could just watch the live stream yourself. The point of this video is to sort of shorten it up so you can have a pretty good summary of this. But yeah, 9 new elite specializations, and I'm just really excited to see how big these 5 new zones are, because man, I love exploring Guild Wars 2, and seeing some of the footage that we saw in the trailers, it looks like these zones seem a lot bigger, seem a lot larger scale, bigger trees, bigger mountains. Everything seems to be a bit more scaled up, and I'm really excited for that because I felt like a lot of things in Guild Wars 2 aren't really scaled that high, and your character feels kind of big in certain environments. Maybe that's just me though, because I played a lot of other MMOs, and you know, a lot of MMOs you feel a bit smaller in the areas, but in these new maps it looks really huge, so really excited for that, to see how these maps will play out. Developers have also mentioned that a lot of the new zones will have a lot of landmarks and recognizable features from Guild Wars 1, so that's really exciting. You know, a lot of people always want to have some type of connection between the lore of Guild Wars 2 and Guild Wars 1, and I love the fact that they're doing this because it really shows not only that the developers have appreciation for the game, but also people who've been playing Guild Wars 1 for so long ago can now see some of that stuff that was in that game appear in this game, and it just connects the worlds a lot better, it connects the games a lot better, and it makes this world really feel like it's still the same world from Guild Wars 1, so I'm really excited to see that. We also see that in the trailer, we see that people are basically worried about something happening in Alona. It looks like that's the Elonian city there. So I'm guessing one of the main things in this story is going to be Balthazar, you know, trying to pursue whatever goals he has. And obviously Balthazar being a human god, a lot of the humans in Alona, a lot of the people in this area are going to be really surprised and really just taken aback. And I believe what the developers say is that there's going to be a huge crisis in Alona, so we'll have to see how that plays out. Developers also stated that Palawa Jokol will be also in the expansion, and that he's risen into power and brought his own little army, so we'll probably have to deal with some undead as well. A lot of different factions are going to be included as well. Now, in my original reaction to this trailer, I thought that we might be teaming up with some of them, but it looks like developers have actually stated these are going to be different factions of enemies that we're going to have to fight, such as the Forged, which is Balthazar's army basically, the Awakened, which is the undead forces, and the Branded even, that serve Kraukatorix. So who knows if we'll even have an encounter with Kraukatorix in this expansion. That would be really cool if, all of a sudden we have Balthazar to deal with, and then Kraukatorix as well, because, why would they add Branded? Obviously because, Kraukatorix is in that region, so, maybe Branded would be part of the expansion, obviously. Another really interesting, cool thing about this expansion is they're going to be adding something called bounties, and these bounties are basically something for players to hunt down dangerous creatures, world bosses, and even compete in what they're calling mount races. I'm not really sure how that would function or what that even is, but I think it's a really cool idea. I know that they have bounties in Final Fantasy XIV, and I believe they have bounties. And I know that bounties are also in the Red Dead Redemption games. A lot of games have basically added this to their feature list, bounties, and it's a really cool add-on feature, something on the side, sort of like side quests, And I think this is a really cool addition because it's going to be something sort of like dailies. You have your dailies and you also have a set of bounties. One of the things that I was really disappointed with in Guild Wars 2 were the activities. The activities were supposed to be something on the side that you could do that, players were encouraged to do because it was sort of like a side thing to do along with the dailies. But activities never really got really popular. I don't know if it's because people didn't like the activities or because there were no real rewards in them. So I feel like bounties are basically a replacement, or not a replacement, but are basically an additional feature that's sort of like the activities in the base game and sort of like the adventures in Heart of Thorns. I don't know how well adventures did in Heart of Thorns. I liked them personally. I had a lot of fun playing them. I know some people really didn't like the adventures in Heart of Thorns, so it seems like these bounties are sort of like what Heart of Thorns had as adventures. Bounties are what it is in Path of Fire, which I'm completely fine with because I think it's a really cool idea. There's also going to be a new guild hall, the Windswept Haven, and you should see some footage of that in the background as well. And from what I see, the guild hall looks really awesome. It looks like a very antique but elegant and exquisite, and it feels like a rich type of ancient guild hall. It looks really cool. So I like the guild halls that we got in Heart of Thorns, but this one looks even better. This is by far my new favorite guild hall. And I wonder if they're going to be adding more guild halls, because Heart of Thorns only really offered 2 guild halls, and I would have expected them to add more guild halls over the course of Living World Season 3, but that never really seemed to happen, sadly. So I'm hoping that they add more guild halls. Hopefully this isn't the only guild hall they're going to add, throughout the entire expansion and throughout Living World Season 4. Hopefully they add another one, because I would love to see another one being added, but this one here looks pretty solid. Speaking of Living World Season 4, I also read and heard that Living World Season 4 is also going to follow right after the expansion, so it looks like we're not going to have 2 huge amounts of breaks, really, in between Living World Season episodes and the expansions. I'm sure we won't get it anytime this year. I think they'll probably release Living World Season 4 maybe January next year at the most, because I think people will be pretty busy October, November, finishing the expansion, and they'll probably take December also to get the Living World Season 4 Episode 1 ready. So I'm glad to see that, because I remember in Heart of Thorns, it took forever for the expansion to get out, and we had nothing to do. And then after the expansion, it took forever to get Living World Season 3 out, and we had nothing to do. So it looks like they're on a pretty nice schedule here that will be going right into Living World Season 4 after we complete the expansion. Obviously, if you don't speed through it, if you speed through it, then you're going to be in that boat where you feel like you have nothing to do. But I feel like these maps are going to be so huge. I feel like there's going to be so much content in this expansion, and that's one of the things that developers also said. They're not going to be focusing on features a lot in the expansion, because all the features were added in Heart of Thorns. They're going to be focusing a lot on content, which is what Heart of Thorns was lacking, and what this expansion is going to be having a lot of. So we should be busy for a long time. Speaking of that, though, what's really curious to me, though, and what stands out the most to me, is adventures and some of the old masteries that we got. Like the mastery Coda's Flame that we only really use in Bitterfrost Frontier, and a few of the other masteries that are really only usable in specific areas. Are they going to be adding those masteries into the new maps in Path of Fire? You may think they will, but at the same time, because players won't be able to basically buy Heart of Thorns included with Path of Fire unless they pay $50, if you're someone who's only buying Path of Fire and only buying the core game, and you're not going to buy Heart of Thorns, then some of the content in Path of Fire may be inaccessible to you because you don't have Heart of Thorns. So on one angle, it seems like they're not going to include anything that Heart of Thorns had to offer, which is reasonable, but at the same time very disappointing as well, because that means a lot of the masteries that we got in Heart of Thorns, they won't be useful anymore, and they're kind of be forgotten about. A lot of the adventures, that whole adventure system is probably not going to be moved over to Path of Fire either. So that's just one thing that's really disappointing to me, is that they say they have a lot of these features lined up already. They say they have a lot of these features built already, which is great, and they can keep on adding on to these features. But I want to see them expand these features to the new zones. I want to see these features be revisited and brought up in the newer zones. Like, let's have jumping mushrooms. Let's have gliding in the Crystal Desert. Let's have, the ability to maybe use Coda's Flame, or maybe to use the grappling hook that we got in Episode 5 of Living World Season 3. Let's have some ways to incorporate that into new maps. That's what I would love to see. But, then it all comes down again to, well, the people who buy POF won't have HOT, so it kind of sucks then. So I can completely understand both sides, but it just seems kind of lame then, that all the work they put into, everything they put into Heart of Thorns is now not really going to be fully applicable to POF. I mean, yes, the feature and the system is going to be applicable, but not a lot of the content that came with those systems. So that's what's kind of disappointing. But who knows? We haven't even seen the maps yet. We haven't even looked at the game yet. So maybe they have incorporated a little bit. Maybe they haven't. But the important part is that there's going to be a lot of content in this expansion and a lot less focus on features. They also talked a little bit about mounts and how those would work. Basically, mounts are going to be tied to the mastery system. So you're going to have to unlock new mastery levels to unlock the new mounts, and these mounts are mainly used to obviously traverse across the big maps. But the really cool thing about them is that each of these mounts has a different special ability that can help you move across the maps in different ways. Like one of them is going to allow you to jump higher, another one will allow you to float or run faster, and each of these is supposed to have a special purpose in each map. So each mount will be able to be used in a certain way to make certain puzzles easier, or certain jumping puzzles easier, or traversing certain maps easier than you using another type of mount which may be more suited for another map. Each mount will also have one combat skill to aid players in combat, and the example that they gave was the raptor having a tailspin, for example, that will pull enemies together and is good for starting off big fights. Raptor is also going to be the first mount that players have access to, and the Raptor is going to allow you to have a big leap ability which can allow you to jump over canyons and over roofs even. The next mount will be the Springer, and basically it has a charge that will allow you to jump up. The longer you charge it up, the longer that you probably hold a button or hold an ability, the longer the charge will be, and the longer the charge is, the higher you will jump. Another mount is the Skimmer, which is a manta-like creature with wings. It will allow you to hover over the ground, and it can hover over things like water, which I thought looked really cool in the trailer, to be honest with you. And the last mount they have is the Jackal, which can blink forward for a short distance and can change distance mid-air. And this basically helps you with more precise movements for jumping puzzles, which I think a lot of people are going to use for that. But it could also just be used for another teleport. Now, one thing I'm curious about is they're probably going to, just like in Heart of Thorns, where they had gliders implemented and they had a bunch of different glider skins, they're probably going to have a bunch of different mount skins as well. So I don't think we're going to get a variation of mounts. I don't think we're going to get new mounts. I think the 4 mounts that they have in the game right now are going to be the 4 mounts that are going to stay in the game. But if you want a different look for a mount, I think that's going to be going through the gem store, which I think is a smart idea, because they did that for the gliders and they're going to do it for the mounts as well. And the last big thing that I want to go over, which I think a lot of people are excited for, that I think is worth mentioning, is the elite specializations. Now we'll start off with Guardian. This is going to be called the Fire brand. It uses Axe as a main hand weapon. The virtues are going to be replaced by Conjure Tombs of Lore, and these tombs will act as weapons to protect allies and basically get enemies away. So this is going to be much like a support style class, which I think is really cool, because Guardian was always supposed to be that, tanky, you could play him support if you want him to style a class. And Fire brand, which is the Guardian Elite specialization, is focusing on burning enemies and conjuring tomes to aid your allies. So instead of having instant support, which is what the virtues were a lot of times, you're not going to have casted support, and a lot of the support is going to be more focused and available to you to help other people in your party. Necromancer is going to be the Scourge. You will be giving up Death Shroud, but you'll be using your life force to protect your allies through the earth, they say. So you'll get a lot more battlefield control and movement options that the regular Necromancer basically doesn't have. You'll be using a torch as an offhand weapon. They can turn enemy boons into weaknesses, and they can grant their party members or people around them boons and protective barriers. Now this is really interesting to me, because Necromancer was always this type of selfish class that didn't really give any huge buffs to the party. It wasn't a very supporty class, and I'm glad to see that finally Necromancer is getting some type of support abilities to, have those skills that can actually help the party a bit, and you don't have to play, just the regular Necro, which is a bunch of damage. You actually have a choice of playing a support if you want to play a support Necro, which is what Guild Wars 2 is all about, is having flexibility in the class that you play. Necromancer was always in this position where you couldn't really play support very well if you tried, because you just didn't have a lot of the skills that would support your party. And this now brings that playstyle into the Necromancer role. Thief, which is going to be called Deadeye as lead specialization, will be using a rifle. Rifle will be used to snipe at long range, marking targets to harass them with harmful effects. So it might be a condition damage rifle for Thief, who knows? And because they'll be masters of shadow magic, it'll allow them to cast cantrips, which gain bonuses against marked targets, or as their malice increases, which I imagine is going to be some form of energy that sort of the Heart of Thorns specialization for Thief had as well, where they were able to dodge a certain amount of times. An additional dodge they got, maybe they'll have some type of energy this time around too, which is called malice, but that's just me guessing here. The Mesmer is going to be called Mirage or Mirage, however you want to pronounce it. They're able to camouflage into their surroundings and attack you from all sides. They have a new dodge mechanic, blur effect, and both of these are supposed to help you to pass through attacks. They use axe as a main hand weapon, and they'll be able to use this to fight at close range or even at mid range. Then for warrior, it's going to be called Spellbreaker. They're apparently going to be specializing in fighting magic users. Their weapon is going to be dagger in both hands, which is really exciting to me because I've always wanted to see a warrior with 2 daggers. I thought Berserker was going to be with 2 daggers, and you just have them, hacking and slashing at their enemies really quickly with both daggers furiously, but it's glad to see that they're going to be using that for Spellbreaker. You'll be able to use your adrenaline to perform full counter attacks, absorbing the next attack against them and even damaging surrounding foes with that absorption of that attack. And another cool thing about warriors is that you'll be able to even stop skills and cut enemy boons. So it looks like you might have some type of boon strip or boon removal playstyle here as well, which is something that Guild Wars 2 doesn't have a lot of. Certain runes and sigils will do it for you. Certain classes can do it very well, but a lot of classes can't do it very well. So it looks like Spellbreaker, the elite specialization for warrior, is gonna be real good at doing that now, which is great to see, to have another playstyle part of the game. Then for elementalist, which is my main, it's gonna be the Weaver, and they're gonna be able to finally hold main hand sword. And man, have we waited for this so long, for Elementalists to have main hand sword. What's even cooler is that they'll be able to use dual attunement. Now this sounds crazy. You'll be able to cycle elements from hand to hand, combining them in their central skill. The skill changes depending on their elemental attunement and choice of weapon. So I have no idea how this is gonna work. The little trailer they have for Elementalist, it shows a little bit of how to work, but not really. But instead of having to cycle through your magic attunements one after the other, the Weaver, which is the new specialization for Elementalists, will be able to combine them and create elements out of the 2 that you combine. So who knows how this is going to work. Sounds really cool and really exciting, and I can't wait to see this. I'm definitely going to be playing the Weaver. It looks like Weaver is going to be even cooler than Tempest was. Then Ranger is going to be called Soul Beast, and once again a long-awaited request for the Ranger, the ability to finally play as your pets. You'll be able to become your pet and actually fight as your pet. The dagger will be your main hand, and there will even be new Ranger pets in Alonia as well. And what's really neat is that while each pet has its own abilities, like we know, you're going to be able to have those exact same abilities that those pets have. So it's going to be really awesome to see what all these different abilities pets have. It's gonna be really cool to see which pets are really cool to use and that you can transform into. Now, whether your main character will still be fighting alongside with you, I'm not sure if that's a thing, but we'll have to see how that works out in the future. 2 more to go. Revenant will have an elite specialization called Renegade. They'll be using a short bow. You'll have a new legend to channel, which is Kala Scorch Razor. And this is actually really cool because you'll be able to summon members of the Char Warband to help your allies and fire arrows into a portal into the mist that come out of a different portal behind the enemy. So it sounds like something really awesome. And it's just another legend that you can have in your Revenant playstyle. I don't play Revenant a lot. I haven't had a lot of playtime under him. Honestly, I really didn't like how the Revenant played out in Heart of Thorns. It just didn't feel like a class I liked playing, but this does sound really awesome, and I definitely want to try out this new legend. For those of you who play Revenant, this sounds really exciting because you'll have another legend to choose from, and I'm pretty sure you can mix and match them as well. And lastly, for Engineer, you'll be getting the Hollowsmith. You'll be using main hand sword, so just like the Elementalist, main hand sword, and you'll be able to bend light to become your weapon. Apparently this class is going to have an interesting multi-weapon playstyle. You'll have certain attacks where you can pull out a holographic hammer, and then switch to like some type of guns even, or some other type of weapon. And there's also a neat little mechanic that if you stay too long as these weapons, they'll basically heat up, and eventually, if you stay too long, they can even explode. So I'm not sure that's gonna kill your character, or if it's gonna do some type of damage to your character, or if they just disappear. But it seems like a really cool mechanic that you'll have to keep track of. This is apparently called the Photon Forge mode when you become your weapon, and you'll basically have a bunch of new powerful skills, and each of these skills will generate some type of heat. And because you're continuously gaining heat with all these new weapon skills that you're going to be using, the utility skills are actually going to play very well into this heat level, basically getting you more power as the heat level gets higher and higher. So one thing I find interesting here is that they mention utility skills, which means that each class is also going to have new utility skills. Now, how many utility skills that is, I have no idea. I imagine it's going to be another 4 or 5, just like Heart of Thorns gave us. But it's good to see that these utility skills are basically going to be functioning in par with the new elite specialization and with the new mechanics that each of these elite specializations has. So not going to be some random elite skills that you're probably never going to use. I know some classes have some utility skills that not a lot of people use. It looks like these utility skills are really going to have some meaning, and they're going to connect very well with the new elite specialization. And with that, those are all 9 new elite specializations. I think that pretty much summarizes what we learned today from all the streams and from all the information that I could get. I'm pretty sure I missed a few things, and if I did, I'll definitely mention it in future videos. I'm gonna try to create more detailed videos on a lot of this. Maybe we'll talk a bit more about the zones that we're getting. Maybe we'll talk a bit more about the elite specializations that we're getting, depending on what new information comes out, depending on what more information ArenaNet wants to release, or what information I may have even missed. I tried to get this video done quickly because I know some of you are eager to know what's coming in the expansion. I know some of you didn't have time to watch the stream. I know some of you are waiting for me to release this video. The other thing is that I have a business trip tomorrow. In fact, I have a flight to New York. I'm going to a shoot to do some filming there. So today was really the only day that I had to get this done. So I didn't have too much time to make sure I got all the information, but hopefully you still found the video helpful. Hopefully you still found it appreciative. And if you did, go ahead and leave a like. If you think I missed any information, and if I did miss any information that you thought was really cool and really interesting, and that you just want to let everyone know, leave a comment down below. If you're watching the video, go ahead and check the comments down below, because a lot of people are probably going to be commenting there, you know, talking about things that they really want to see, or that they saw, or they're excited about, or even some things that they may have some criticism about, you know. Who knows, maybe ArenaNet even reads the comments section, you know. It's not unknown for ArenaNet to actually watch some of the creator videos. So if you have something to say, go ahead and say it. I'll definitely take a look down there as I'm traveling and talk to you guys when I have the time to do so. I should be back on Friday, so I'll try to see if I can get another video up on Friday about this, or maybe over the weekend if there's any more new information that gets released. I imagine there's going to be a bunch of blog posts about each elite specialization. I imagine there's going to be some blog posts about some more details in the map, or about the story, or about these mounts. And as that information gets released over the course of the next 5-6 weeks, we'll definitely have videos complementing them and giving you all the information to sort of speculate over and analyze and geek out about and just summarize for you in general. So if you're interested in that type of content, if you like this video, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, because we have plenty of other Guild Wars 2 content on our channel, plenty more POF stuff coming as well. And for those of you who have been here for a while now, I really appreciate it, and hopefully you've been enjoying all these videos that I've been making up to this point. We have plenty more videos coming, and it's an exciting time. Less than 2 months away from Path of Fire. Cannot tell you enough how cool this expansion looks. This expansion may not have a lot of the, you know, flashy promo talk that Heart of Thorns had, because Heart of Thorns had like, oh, new legendaries, new maps, new gliding, new masteries system, new class, new revenant, a bunch of new stuff. So it doesn't have as much flashy promo crap that we got from Heart of Thorns, but it has a lot of, I think, content, and I think it has a lot in these big, huge maps. I think the mounts are going to be really fun. I think the story is going to be really good, because if you think about it, Living World Season 3 was very detailed. Every episode was really super well done, and I think we're going to get that same type of quality in these Living World episodes. Plus, we might get a whole new city even. I mean, will Elona be a city like Divinity's Reach? Who knows? That would be really awesome. We would have another major city like Lion's Arch. Who knows? Maybe we'll get something like that. Maybe not. I think we're probably not going to get it, because they're making 5 big maps. I don't think they're going to make another city map, but who knows? We'll have to see. Anyway, I'm rambling on here. So many things to be excited about, so many things to speculate about. Let me know in the comment section what you think. And I think that pretty much does it for today. If you want to check out my most recent video, which will be the reaction video to the trailer, you can click the annotation here. Want to check out a similar video to this one, you can click the annotation here. If you want to subscribe to my channel or any of my other channels, you can click the annotation here. And if you want to donate $1 to my Patreon page, you can click the annotation here. That's pretty much it, guys. Thank you for watching as always. And this is GSmaniamsmart, and I'll be back sooner than you think. Don't go anywhere.